Only 2 months ago, Chelsea was sitting second and only 3 points away from Liverpool. Now, 21 points behind Liverpool, hard fixtures to come, and in a battle to scrape through into the Champions League spots. So what's gone so horribly wrong at Chelsea? In this episode, we'll deep dive into the one tactical flaw that has exposed Chelsea all season. Is Cole Palmer really the issue? And the key position that could cost them a Champions League finish. And you have to stick around to the end because there's a bonus rapid fire analysis of 3 further issues that Maresca must fix before it's too late. Welcome to A Game of Two Halves, and let's get straight into it. The one tactic that keeps getting exposed time and time again from Chelsea this season is their high line, especially from crossing situations. Now, this is Brighton's second goal in the Premier League game against Chelsea, and keep an eye on one player, and that's Levi Colwill. And there's small details that have big consequences. As Ruta has the ball, it's a perfect line on the edge of the box. There's nothing wrong with this line. The distances between them, every man is covered. But it's what happens once Ruta bypasses Caicedo where the issues really occur. Gusto and Chalobah now have to drop to match Ruta's position inside the penalty box once he's bypassed Caicedo. But this is the problem now. They've split into 2 defensive units, and this is the problem when one player, just one player, does something different to the rest of the defensive line. It's not a natural movement to just hold your line on the edge of the box, especially once a player has entered the penalty box. But this is what's happened with Maresca's tactic, and you can see the issues it causes later down the line. Ruta bypasses Gusto, just makes a little yard of space to play that ball into the box, and you can see that if you're looking at this from the naked eye, you can say, oh, Colwill has made a good clearance. He's stopped well by getting the ball. But if he's in a natural position alongside Chalobah and Gusto, he simply clears this out for a corner. He doesn't have to stretch anymore. But this is the problem with this tactic. When one player does something wrong, he then has a last-ditch clearance. Jorgensen has to prevent an own goal, saves the ball, and then the problem occurs where Minte picks up the loose ball, feints the shot to that bottom right-hand corner, and then shifts it away from Cucurella and puts it into that bottom right-hand corner anyway. And this is the problem. And it's been occurring all season. If you remember the Liverpool game at Anfield, I think it was Reece James that dropped a bit too far compared to the rest of the defensive line, played Curtis Jones onside, and then Curtis Jones is able to have a touch and finish in the box without any pressure at all. And this has been happening time and time again. It happened in the Aston Villa game as well. And it's costing Chelsea big goals in games. And these defensive issues have been a problem all season, but especially in the past 10 games. If we look at the form guide from the Premier League this season in the past 10 games, 11 points picked up, 14th in the Premier League table for the form guide, 17 goals conceded. Only the promoted teams have conceded more goals in that time period. And if you look at the underlying data, it's no fluke. They're meant to be in this position. 38.7 goals in terms of that expected goals against, 11th in the Premier League. They haven't got good defensive numbers throughout the whole of this season. And it's something they have to work on because, it doesn't really affect them in the games they should win. If we look at the last 10 games again, they've won games against Wolves at home, Southampton at home, and West Ham at home. These are games they should be winning. When they come up against teams that they should, have a bit of difficulty against, they haven't performed well in their recent form. Now make sure to like and subscribe if you're enjoying this content, and let me know down in the comments. Let's start a discussion. What do you think of this tactic, holding this high line on the edge of the box? What do you make of their top 4 chances? Do you think Chelsea will secure a Champions League spot, whether that's 4th or 5th? And is Cole Palmer an issue? Well, that's something we're going to get into right now. Now, there's one player that has been instrumental in his career at Chelsea, and that's Cole Palmer. But there's a big difference in his output in terms of his goals and assists from the first 13 games in the season to the last 14. In the first 13 games this season, he had 8 goals and 6 assists. But in the last 14 games, including the Southampton game, which isn't included in this visual, he had 6 goals, which is still a respectable return, but 0 assists. And you're starting to think, is there a problem with Cole Palmer? And if you look even deeper than that, he has zero goals and assists in the last 6 games, and it's definitely a little bit of a worry in his attacking output. But he's still making great movements in games. He's getting big chances in games still. And if you look at the Southampton game, where that goal scoring worry continued, you can see that Enzo Fernandez picks this ball up in the transition moment, taking it off number 4 from Southampton. And you can see Cole Palmer makes a lovely dart just directly through the heart of the opposition back line. It's a trademark run from Cole Palmer. But it's when he gets there, that's where you start to see, is this playing on him mentally? He's one-on-one with Ramsdale, and look at what he's got to aim for. You expect Cole Palmer, a settled ball underneath his feet, slowed down, no real physical pressure on him, to tuck this away. Ramsdale makes a half-decent save here, but you just expect Cole Palmer to either put this away or square this for Nkunku, who's free. That's a simple tapping for him once he squares it and takes Ramsdale out of the game. But he does neither. He neither puts this away or squares it for Nkunku. And it's 0-0 at this point. You know, if Southampton get that first goal, then it's nervy, and then we're pointing back to this moment as to what Cole Palmer could have done for Chelsea. But like I said, the underlying data is there. That's what you look for. You know, he's still getting big chances. And if we talk about assists, let's compare him before the 1st of December to after the 1st of December, because that's where the assists started to slow down. And if you look at before the 1st of December, you know, he had 6 assists. 6 assists, a great return in that short period. But the open play expected assist was only 2 assists. So he was overperforming in that first part of the season. But the second part of the season, after the 1st of December, you can see that he has 0 assists. But his open play expected assists have increased to 3.4. So he's actually underplaying it now. And this is where you'll probably level out at some point. He'll probably still get a few assists come towards the end of the season. He's creating more chances and more high value chances for Chelsea, and they're not putting it away. And I think it will come. The assists will come, the goals will come, and Cole Palmer is definitely not the issue. I can tell you what is a problem for Enzo Maresca and Chelsea, and that's individual errors. It's something that just can't be accounted for. It probably comes a little bit down to the style of play, but mostly the quality of the players that he has. If you look at the team data, the amount of errors leading to a shot on goal in the Premier League, the amount of errors, individual errors leading to a goal directly, Chelsea are second. Only Southampton are worse. And if you look at the individual players that have made these errors, you can see where the problem occurs. There's one position that Chelsea haven't got right this season, and that is the goalkeeper. If you look at the individual data, Robert Sanchez is top for individual errors made that lead to either a shot or goal. 7. You know, and if you look at Jorgensen, his replacement that's come in, you know, he's already made 3 individual errors out of 6 games. You know, 1 in every 2 games he's making a big error that leads to either a shot or a goal. And this is a problem position that Chelsea haven't fixed. They knew it was a position they had to sign in the summer, and they went out and signed Jorgensen rather than an established keeper, and it's been haunting them the whole season. If you look back at big moments this season, especially when they drop points, the goalkeepers are usually involved in terms of the errors that they've made. And if you look back at the Man City game, drawing 1-1 away at the Etihad, the momentum started to swing towards Man City, started playing more long balls in behind, and that's when you need your goalkeeper to know when to sweep and when to stay closer to his goal line. And in this situation, Haaland beat Chalobah aerially, but it's what happens next. Sanchez decides he's going to try and sweep this, even though Chalobah's goal side, you know, if Sanchez just goes to his goal here, there's not that much threat. You know, you're relying on Haaland to beat Chalobah 1v1 with Chelsea having recovering defenders, but this position is just ridiculous, to be honest with you. And I think after this game, he ends up getting dropped. And this is the problem with the goalkeepers, because it doesn't stop there. You know, in the Aston Villa game, away from home, 1-1 late in the game, you've got a solid point away from home at Aston Villa. And the problem comes, Jorgensen, you know, I don't know what he does here in terms of the flap he makes to try and save this ball, but it's a corner, short corner, and it ends up with Asensio having a shot on goal. It's directly at him, and he actually ends up folding to try and save the ball, but he actually screams underneath him and ends up going in the net. And it's one where he could have just palmed this to the side. You know, it probably could have led to a second situation where they have a shot on goal, but then it wouldn't have been his fault. But this situation here was a bit embarrassing to see all the Chelsea players with their heads in their hands after the goal. And it's these big moments where the goalkeepers are costing Chelsea points. And this goalkeeper issue is a problem they're stuck with now to the end of the season, and it could cost them a Champions League place. Now make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and let's jump straight into the bonus rapid fire analysis. And the first issue in this quick fire analysis is Reece James. I don't think they're using him to the best of their ability. You either use his defensive ability in that right centre-back spot in build-up, you know, against counter-attacks where he's so good on a transition, so good at tracking runs, or you use him in that right-back, right wing-back position, allowing him to get those crosses into the box. You know, that quality, we haven't seen that for so long. It's something where they're not using Reece James to the best of his ability, especially in that centre midfield spot, and I just don't think they're making the best use of Reece James. The second big issue is injuries. They've had big injuries to individual players that would have made a difference. The likes of Lavia, Fofana's a big miss. The drop-off from him to the likes of Tosin, Chalobah, it's a big drop-off. But even more recently, they had Reece James being out for the majority of the start of the season. Nicholas Jackson's now out. You know, they haven't got that real figurehead at the top of the pitch. Madueke's out, and this is going to hurt them in their fight for the Champions League. The third issue is the amount of points they're dropping from winning positions, especially since that December period. You know, 13 of the 15 points that they've dropped from winning positions have come since Boxing Day. They have the youngest average age in terms of the squad profile, and that could lead to inconsistencies, the lack of leaders to help them in difficult moments. And again, it's another issue that's hurting them over the course of this season. And their fixtures to come are not going to help anything in the short term. You know, after after Leicester at home, there's some very tricky games to come towards the end of the season, and they have to improve that defensive performance, especially in these big games coming up, to have any hope of finishing in the Champions League. Now make sure to binge watch all my other episodes, a couple Chelsea episodes, and something I'll put up here for you to watch next, and I'll see you on the next episode of A Game of Two Halves.